This show is proudly supported by Habitats at Home, Australia's leading PVC reptile enclosure specialist. Check them out on Instagram and Facebook at Habitats at Home, and be sure to visit habitatsathome.com.au if you're in the market for a new PVC reptile enclosure or other reptile accessories. Massive thanks to Tyson over at Habitats at Home. We'd like to thank our podcast sponsor, Bay, reimagining reptile keeping through innovation. They combine quality, design, and function to create high-end 3D printed reptile products. And if you've got a unique setup or problem, they'll craft a custom solution made just for you. Check them out on Instagram at Bay. This show is proudly supported by Dan from Red Earth Reptiles. If you want to drool over some of the best looking green tree pythons in the country, check out Dan on Instagram at red_earth_reptiles. G'day and welcome back to ChatGTP. Hey Dan, how are you?
Hello Joe, welcome back. Welcome back to your own show.
Yeah, that's funny how that works. Anything new?
You've been working
Anything
hard, mate.
Yes, I'm going away to New Zealand, which, funnily enough, I'll be back by the time this episode airs.
Great.
But it's good to get on top of things. I'm trying to make something of this, so it's good to be on top of it.
It's good.
Any news?
Not really, no. Just, it's that time of the year when things are just sort of, waiting kind of time, I think, feeding babies and growing rodents. That's about it for me.
That's riveting.
I like rodents. They're nice. They're fun.
Are you being facetious?
No, I do. I like them. I actually quite like keeping rats and mice. They're pretty cool. Anyway,
they're interesting. I think if you give them things to do and you're able to observe them, you can definitely get more enjoyment out of them than just chucking pellets in and putting them in the corner of your shed or whatever. But
yeah, definitely. Anyway, we're off track, Joe. So
sorry. Similar here on my end.
Tell us about who's coming on today.
Matt Summerville.
Yeah,
we've got a round 2 with Matt Summerville on this podcast, but it's the first time he's on ChatGTP. He's a guy with a stack of experience, not only with captive green pythons, but also in the wild as well, which I really want to touch on that today.
Definitely, just has amazing photos of wild green pythons in different ambush positions. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, he put that post up today of all those wild green pythons in ambush, particularly the one on the termite mound. Was pretty interesting to me because I guess it's not exactly the standard sort of habitat type that you would consider. So maybe enough yapping. Let's just bring him in. What do you reckon?
Absolutely.
Hello, Matt. How you going? Welcome to the show.
Joe, how are you? Dan, how are you?
We're good, mate. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me back.
Yeah, of course. I don't know if I invited you to this one. I think you might have.
I think we were talking about different stuff, weren't we? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a fantastic episode. We've been pretty heavy on the captive stuff so far. So you obviously do things in a bit of a different way to the average punter in terms of captive things. But we'll get to that eventually. Can you just give the listeners a bit of a rundown on your history with green pythons?
Yeah. So I think now when I got my first one. So I had a bad start with greens in the beginning. I bought a Sarong Aussie cross as a almost yearling off, I won't name the person who they were, but it arrived and it was in awful condition, badly kinked, its tongue was fused. It was not a good snake to start with. Yeah. I persisted for it for a little while. It prolapsed a couple of times on me, which to this day is still the only green I've ever had prolapse for me.
Awesome.
And at about 18 months old, I made the decision to actually euthanize it because it was such a bad snake. It put a bad taste in my mouth for a while, to be honest. And I thought to myself, I don't want anything to do with these animals ever again. And then I went a few years without keeping them. And then I started actually, I did my first trip to Iron Range and saw them in the wild, and it sort of sparked the interest in me again a little bit. I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind some of these things. And I
Do you know what
bought
what year was that?
my first Iron Range trip. It was 14 years ago now. So what's that make it?
Gotcha. 2012.
Yeah, yeah, about 2012. Yeah, 14
Jeez.
years ago. So when I got
Yeah.
back, I bought a pair of hatchlings off someone, unfeeding straight out of the egg, which
Nice.
was scary at the same time. And they were brilliant. They were Aussies. They fed almost instantly for me. I had a bit more experience with keeping at that point as well, and raising a few more difficult things, especially elapids. And then
Brown snakes.
yes, a lot of brown snakes. So greens weren't so tough after that. They fed really well. I grew them up, sexed them once they were a year old. They were two boys, and I kept them for a couple of years. And I've still got one of the males now. He's the father that pretty much fathers all my offspring. And the other one died about 2 years ago now. I actually went on holidays and left someone looking after my animals. It was not their fault at all, but that male just happened to die while I was away.
Yeah.
And Cairns did have a really, really hot day that day, so possibly it was that. But I don't know why he died, but it was no one's fault. Anyway, a few years after I got those males, I borrowed a female off someone. A mate of mine had a female. She actually arrived, and the day she arrived, I just chucked her straight in with the male, which was a bit silly. Anyway, it was in the middle of July, and she gave me a clutch that year. He was he was mating with her within 15 minutes of her being off a plane. Yeah,
Off
and
a
she
plane. I was gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
yeah. So and she gave me 15 good eggs, no slugs that season.
And Matt, you were keeping them in standard enclosures back
Then
then?
I was, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So all my greens back then were in 4 foot by 4 foot by 2 foot deep enclosures.
Yeah.
Pretty not as basic as I see most people do, but more basic than what I do now. Still a lot of branches. There was live plants and stuff in there as well. And yeah, I bred them in that. And trying to think the order of things, how it went now. And then a year later, I acquired another female. I kept a few of those hatchlings. I've still grown some of those up now. And then the other female gave me a clutch the following year as well. And they're still the only girls I've ever purchased. Yeah, everything else I've got is what I've bred from them along the way now.
It sounds like that first one that gave you a bit of hard time was that probably one of the only sort of negative experiences you've had with them? Since then, it's been pretty positive.
Yeah, that's the only bad experience I've had with a juvenile, really, and that was just a bad animal that I bought. You would have seen the yellow one that I used to have.
Oh yes.
Did you ever see that animal? So
Yeah.
that was originally a Brian Champion animal, and a friend of mine, Mark Green, bought it off him as a hatchling, and it just turned into this crazy yellow-looking,
super high yellow,
impressive
crazy
snake.
looking thing.
So he had it for a few years, had no success breeding it, sent it up here to me. I kept it inside for a little while. I had the first year she laid one slug. That was it. That was all I got out of her. I moved her outside into an aviary, and then the next year she gave me one rough-looking egg. It was fertile, but it only went a couple of weeks, and then went out. And then the next year she gave me one slug again, and then I sent her. Yeah, it was
In the
one
bin.
every single time. So I'd had enough of her.
That's so
I was
weird.
I sent her down to Steve Crawford,
Yeah.
and he had her for a couple of years, and she developed a large tumor in her face and had to be
Right.
euthanized. And so she's never bred. That snake has never bred.
Do you have? That's a damn shame. Firstly, but
Mhm.
do you have any
damn shame.
explanation for the singular egg? Have you ever seen that before? Like I think
Never.
one singular
never
egg
seen that with
once
any
is
snake.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
once is
fact it
weird.
was a
3
single
times in
egg
a row.
and single slugs. Yeah, I don't know what her deal was. I don't know enough about that type of
There's
thing
some
with
like
snakes, but I've never seen it
reproductive
before.
defect just only allowing one. That's super weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Some byproduct
So
of this weird mutation, maybe. Who knows?
yeah, I'm not sure. So I that was the only sort of negative experience I had. But I just keep Aussies really, and they're fairly easy. They're like, almost like a green carpet python sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
Well,
definitely had
so
my share of hatchlings that are difficult to get feeding. I've got a few this season that are giving me a lot of grief.
yeah. Well, I do want to talk about that. What's happening with them? What are your methods that you're choosing to try to keep them going or get them feeding?
I'm pretty much the standard as most people that keep them: chick down, quail down.
Yeah.
I've tried skink scenting in the past with no luck really, which is surprising because it's pretty much all they eat in the wild when they're young.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, chick down, I usually get good response. I've got one this year. Honestly, they when I started, they all fed first go really well, and then they just got progressively worse from then on. I've got one that I cannot, that just doesn't bite at all. It's not a runner or anything, it just does not bite. Doesn't want to know about it. And no matter what scent you put in front of it, it just sits there and tongue flicks, but it doesn't actually do anything. And then I've just got those ones that just bite and drop and bite and drop and bite and drop over and
Oh,
over and over again and
I've
drive me
got I've got a
nuts.
couple.
There's a
I've
lot
got a
of
couple
sitting
that's
still for
so
half an hour or
annoying.
so just for them to spit it out again.
Spit it out. Yeah.
But the rest are all
I've
smashing meals.
I've been trying the drumsticks with those guys, and
Hmm.
I think once I got one stuck in there and it ate it, but I haven't been able to replicate that since. It's just a bite drop, bite drop, bite drop.
Yeah,
It is
yeah. So I
super
haven't
fun.
done the
I'd rather a
drumstick
runner.
thing before. I've always just gone straight to pinkies, but
Yeah.
I don't like giving fresh pinkies either. I usually like them to be a day or two old, so they've got a little bit of milk and some goodness in there, not just a goo sack. And
Yeah.
A
I
goose sack,
probably,
yeah.
I think sometimes as well, compared to others, I probably feed some of my hatchies bigger meals than people would be comfortable with because I
Mhm.
do like to get them onto something with fur as quickly as I possibly can.
Completely agree. And sometimes with those, I snip the fuzzy in half.
Oh
Those,
yeah,
those,
yep,
because I've felt that sometimes when they grab them, they just feel like it's too heavy and they drop it. But
yeah,
if you take a bit of weight off, they tend to swallow them.
yeah.
Sometimes.
I've cut the front legs off before too, just to make
Yeah.
it easier for them to eat it. 'Cause,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes they get stuck at the front legs and they stuff around for a while. I've cut
Yeah.
front legs off in the hope, and it does make things much easier for them to eat it.
Yeah. It's
Mm.
messy, snipping
Yeah,
life in
especially
half,
cut
and
in half. Yeah,
yeah, but it does work. But I must admit, I just go to mouse tail, like bits of mouse tail, and
yeah,
when they
Yeah.
grab it, then they can't get rid of it, so then they swallow it.
yeah. They've
Yeah.
got no option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mouse butchering is not a very enjoyable thing to do, but it's becoming a pastime of mine at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, the things you do.
The things you do. Um, so you do keep any greens indoors now that aren't juveniles or
No,
hatchlings?
no. Once
So
I'm at the point
everything's
now where as
outside.
soon as something turns about a year old, it goes outside.
Yeah.
That was a bit
Okay.
scary to begin with because the yearlings are not very big, and chucking them in an aviary that's all my aviaries for my greens, they're 2.4 meters tall by, or not all of them actually. Some are 1.2 meters wide, others are 900 wide, and they're all 900 deep. And they're heavily planted. So I can chuck a snake in there and then walk back out there 10 minutes later and you struggle to find it.
Uh,
It's vanished into there. And
and,
yeah, I've definitely had those moments where I've thought I've lost something.
And you're putting one animal in there, Matt, or you're putting a
If I can,
male,
yeah.
female?
I
Yeah.
don't like mixing. I don't keep males and females together. I've got
Okay,
two
good. Yeah.
aviaries that have uh, two females in each,
Yeah.
and that's only due to lack of space more than anything. I don't want to keep them together like that permanently. They get along fine, and I have no dramas. And this year, two girls that were together both gave clutches, but it got to a point where they were trying to use the same lay box at the same time too, even though there was multiple lay boxes in there. That got a bit
Yeah.
frustrating. So I pulled
of
one girl
course.
out for a couple of days while another one was going to lay. But my plan eventually, once I have a bit more space, is to have every single snake in its own aviary. They do
Awesome.
sometimes smash each other too when you're trying to feed.
Yeah,
That
that's
definitely
unpleasant.
happens. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
have seen them in ambush at night side by side before. And
Oh, terrifying.
if I walk past and my shadow goes over the
Yeah.
top of them, that
Whack.
gets a response, and one will grab another one. I've never had one grab and actually wrap one up, but I have had them definitely bite each other,
I've had mine
and
wrestle too,
they
and
can
then
do some damage.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then you're trying to scramble to get the key out and unlock it, and
yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Matt,
Um.
are your aviaries separated or are they mesh to
No,
mesh?
they're mesh to mesh. Yeah,
Do you put bark fencing or anything between? Or
I no. So I put bark fencing along the back, but on the
yeah,
sides, the snakes can definitely see and access each other. And during
yeah,
the breeding season, the males will definitely roam up and down that mesh, trying to get to those girls that are next
yeah,
to them. Yeah, and I've copped some grief before about this in the past, but I use plastic coated mesh, which they don't rub their faces on as much as I've had people tell me they will.
yeah.
They do not.
Side note: where do you get that from?
Just Bunnings. Bunnings sells it.
Okay.
You can probably get it other places. The Bunnings stuff is not the greatest if you're building your own aviaries because it's never square. It's always
Yeah.
starts twisting to sides and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But the plastic stays on nice as long as you're not bashing things into it and rubbing the plastic off. So
Yeah.
like some of my oldest aviary's 10 years old now, and the mesh is still completely fine.
That's awesome, and it's black
And
too.
I've
Black.
never had a snake rub its face on one ever.
Yeah,
Awesome.
cool.
Do you have any other interactions apart from like a male roaming, obviously around breeding time? Are there any other interactions that you might notice between them separated? Like, I don't know, any sort of pheromones or anything that you might
Mm.
pick up on?
Not that I can pick up on, but I can't smell their pheromones at the
I
same
know
time.
that was worded
But
horribly.
I get
You
where
know
you're
what I'm
going.
trying to say.
To be honest, no, nothing I've noticed. It's just the males start roaming. Once that male starts roaming, that's when I pair a lot of the
Yeah.
time. He's keen. Often the females aren't keen when he's keen. But I always pair in late July. No, sorry, early July. Early July. When we get that 1 week of winter that we get up here,
Yeah.
those cold nights is when I chuck my male in there, and he will be straight onto the girls. But I often don't see good matings straight away. They'll sit and they'll tail wrap and tail hang, and he'll often, if there's two girls in there, he'll move between girls across the
My man.
days. Yeah, yeah. He's the boy I've got that I use. He's good. Yeah, he's a good male. He's very
And he's
very
older.
keen.
This is
Yeah,
the
he
like
is
14 year
older.
old,
Yeah,
13, 14 year old. Yeah.
yeah. He'd be 14. Yeah. Oh no,
Yeah.
13. 13 years old. I got
Yeah.
him about a year after that first Iron Range trip.
Yeah. Dan, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on older males? Pretty
Oh, I think
useful.
yeah, I think a male between 10 and 15 they're guns.
That's the prime, hey?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got 13-year-old males. Oh, they're great.
I
Yeah.
think he fathered his first clutch when he was 4, from memory.
We might have to edit that out.
That's it.
Don't put that in the shorts. Oh dear.
Oh, crikey. Far
Well,
out.
we'll have to translate that to snake years. So what are they're probably like, who knows? What they're in their prime anyway.
They're legal. They're
They're
legal.
legal. They're legal. Oh, look,
Christ.
I want to build some outdoor enclosures here as well. And my motivation for doing that is more, you look at the boxes and you think that, particularly, your females, they just sit there and they get fat, and then you have other problems with them, and you want to, replicate. Well, you want to give them, for me, the best life and expose them to UV and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
What was your sort of motivations, Matt? Like,
So keeping them in the boxes, and mine were, like I said, 4 foot by 4 foot by 2 foot, which I think is bigger than a lot of people do. Usually it's like a 3 by 2 or a 2 by 2.
yeah,
Once I'd seen them in the wild a lot and started watching them, because I got really interested in just what they were doing, not just going up there and seeing them in ambush of a night. Like, anyone can do that. It's very, very easy. It was more watching them in ambush, GPSing where they were, and then going back the following day to see where they'd moved to.
yeah.
And some of these snakes were 10, 15 meters up in the canopy in the next day, sitting up nice and high. And then you could go back to that same spot at 5:30 in the afternoon and, like clockwork, watch that snake descend all the way down to the ground. Or it's really cool. What they do is they go down, they find their position, and then they stretch right out till their nose touches the ground, and then they recoil back. So they work out how far they can reach.
That's super interesting because I've observed my animals do that.
Yeah,
and
so they do that every single time without fail. If you watch one come down from the canopy, and then they sit there all night waiting for a meal, and then just before sunrise the next morning, they go back up and often sit in the exact same perch. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you see them slightly moved, but in the same perch. And some are climbing that 15 plus meters. They're just a little dot up in the canopy. Others are a meter, 2 meters above where they are, but not always. They do that for a few days, and then you come back 4 or 5 days after you'd seen them, and they're 10 meters up in the canopy and 5 trees down the side of there. So they've moved a fair distance. I saw one once. It was in bamboo in ambush, and that night I just GPSed where it was, and then come back the following day, couldn't find it anyway. It had completely disappeared. And then the following night, I was walking along the side of the road and found this green curled up on the ground in ambush, which they sometimes do, just sitting there in the leaf litter, just at the base of a tree. And when I looked at my photos from the night before, it was the same snake, and it was 150 meters down the road.
Wow.
It just completely picked a different spot. So seeing them moving around that much, I kind of come back a few times and looked at mine in these boxes and went, I'm not doing these things justice. So I built my first aviary outside, which is it was 1.2 by 1.2 by 2.5 meters tall. And I just put one of my males out there just to see what he did. And it was cool. He would go all the way to the top to perch. He'd perch under the leaves. I had sort of a tree overhanging the aviary. He'd perch pretty much always under the leaves. And then every night he'd come down, stretch out, touch the ground, and sit in ambush. And he just kept repeating that process over and over again. And over a few months of him doing that, just his body condition, he was lean and muscular and looked like a wild snake by that point. Which
it's pretty awesome.
I've seen people post pictures. I saw someone post a picture on the other day of a nice lean looking male that was kept outside, and there was so many comments on people saying that's unhealthy, that snake's going to die, it's sick, and all that sort of garbage. And it was a really good conditioned male.
Yeah.
It's I was just going to say before, sorry Dan, it's fascinating that it's been kept in a relatively small box in terms of box size for its whole life, and then you put it somewhere where it has the ability to move further, and it absolutely will.
Yeah, they
just
will.
Instinctively,
I find
just uses it.
Outdoors, the males move a lot more than the girls do. As you probably know, a female in an enclosure, she doesn't do a lot. She just sits there on a perch, gets fatter and fatter and fatter. But I find even the females outside, they will sit in the one spot and not even come to the ground. They might come down to the ground and ambush if you starve them for a while. But otherwise, if you're just feeding them on that perch, they stay on that perch and they don't move. Whereas the boys, they seem to be a lot more reliant on that up and down and moving around. And I don't feed my males very much too. Like my adult boys are lucky if they get 6 meals a year.
Wow.
That's awesome.
It's usually just once a month. Once a month, once every 2 months. Over winter, my boys don't eat. They just go off their food as soon as they start getting interested in girls. So you've got 3, maybe 4 months of no food.
Yeah. Have you observed animals in the wild take a prey item when they're down in the ambush position? What do they do after that? Do they stay there or do they go back up at night?
I've only seen it twice in hundreds of greens now. I've seen it twice where one caught a Cape York Melamies, just a small Melamies that was probably, I don't know, the size of a 80-gram rat type thing. And it caught it, and then it sort of we watched it eat it, and then it just sort of sat there, and then the next day it was back up in the canopy, and it never came back down in the entire time I was there. My second trip up there, we watched a huge adult female, the biggest one I've ever seen, smash a big Cape York Melamies one night, and ate it, and then stayed in ambush for the rest of the night. Went back to the canopy the next day, and then come back down the following night. And we didn't see it, but she caught another meal that night. And then she went back up to the canopy, and she was sitting about 5 meters up in the tree, and she looked like she had eaten an extra large rat. I've never seen a green python that stretched. So she got 2 big meals 2 days in a row, and I was there for another 5 days after that, and she never came back down. She just sat up there in the canopy.
It's interesting that she was still hungry after one.
Yeah.
That's...
I don't know if it's just opportunistic behavior.
Yeah.
She'll just take it because it's there. That was in July, so I'd say she could have been prepping to breed and trying to get as much kinship. That was a big snake. Like, majority you see are only 1.2 meters for big adults up there. This snake would have been 1.5, 1.6 meters, and thick, like a big solid snake, big old animal.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
Yeah, I've seen juveniles in ambush during the day as well, with obvious food bulges in them. So they're still hunting when they're looking, because they'll eat a big Kalia, and which is a big meal for a little snake. They look like they're about to explode after they eat.
Yeah.
But and they'll be in ambush the next day. I guess they're just trying to grow as quickly as they possibly can.
I think they could grow fast up there. I've only ever seen a couple of yellows up in Iron Range. But the first one I saw was the biggest yellow green python I've ever seen. It was massive.
Yeah,
this thing was like 2.5 foot long.
I've taken a few people up there that keep greens, and they were shocked at how big these yellow things are. When you see them in July, August, and they're 60, 70 centimeters long.
Yeah, yeah.
And still just bright yellow.
Any really little ones?
Yeah, I've seen fresh hatchlings.
Yeah.
Myself and Elliot Budd, and was it? Yeah, it was definitely with Elliot and Matt Wright. We're up there, and we found a bunch of little juveniles in ambush around an old brush turkey nest. And these were like tiny, fresh little hatchlings. They were just sitting in ambush around the outside of it. So there's no proof, but my theory is the clutch was inside that nest, and they've come out of that and then just set up around it.
That's and we know, if there's anything that we know about brush turkey nests, is it's a stable temperature in there.
Yeah, and there was holes in it everywhere. We weren't going to dig it up or anything like that.
Of course,
but it was cool. It was the first time I've ever seen like evidence, or not evidence, but it looked like something had nested there.
Yeah,
it's incredible to me that these tiny little hatchlings are taken like long prey items like Kalia, and it somehow fits in there somehow.
Yeah,
I don't know how that.
I think the majority of their diet would just be Kalia, sextantata, and Lygosaurus.
Yeah.
That'd be the only skinks, or maybe glaffies every now and then. But that's what they're hunting.
I would have thought
the juvies will just hunt during the day. Yeah,
I would have thought an adult Kalia would do some damage to a neonate green python.
You'd think so.
But I guess if they get a good bite, then that's it.
Yeah, because they're a pretty vulnerable little snake. You would have seen photos and videos of white-lipped tree frogs eating them up there.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That's pretty crazy.
It might be worth just letting the listener know, Matt, where you're situated in Australia. Only because with temperatures and all that sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah, so I live in Cairns, so it's still 700 and something kilometre drive to Iron Range, but as far as temperatures go, we're very similar in this area, and climate's very similar. We get the heavy wet season, we get the dry season. It's pretty simple. It's not simple, but it's easier to keep a green outside than it is to do it somewhere else. Like, I've seen people keeping them in places now where they probably shouldn't be keeping them outside, and I don't think it's going to fare well in the long run, especially how I've seen some of these aviaries set up.
Yeah. So
are you monitoring temperatures inside your enclosures at all, Matt? And like
not anymore, but I used to.
Running sprinklers and all that sort of stuff, or
so I run a sprinkler system, like a misting system, over the top of the whole bank of aviaries, which is 16 aviaries in a row, and I've got a data logger out there and a sensor. So once it gets to about 35 degrees outside, can switch the sprinkler system on. But I also have it when it's hot like this in summer. It comes on at 1 o'clock every afternoon anyway. for 15 minutes and it just mists for a while, and it'll drop the temperature in there by 4, 5, sometimes 10 degrees depending on the time of the
Yeah,
year
it's
in there.
incredible.
Yeah, and my aviaries, they only get sun till about midday, and then for the rest of the day they get like sort of a bit of mottled sunshine, but not direct or anything like that. And they're so heavily planted that they're all in shade anyway. The snakes, unless they're sitting right at the very top of the aviary, they're in the shade.
Yeah, I think you made some really important points just then. You can have a heavily planted aviary, but if it's in the middle of your yard with no trees, no protection from sunlight at all, it'll be a bit cooler in there, but it's still going to be hot as shit.
Exactly, exactly. And it
Where we are
depends,
up in Cairns.
and it depends on what you build it out of too. Like my aviary's a mesh all the way around. Half the roof is enclosed, and then half the roof's open, just so they have somewhere to dry to sit if they want to. And the back wall is enclosed halfway down, so there's a lot of airflow getting through there as well. It's always fresh air. They're not sitting in stagnant air. If you build it out of tin either side, that thing's going to heat up like an oven. Even
and
putting black shade top or something along the sides, it's going to absorb the sun and heat everything up.
Yeah. So you're using like a polycarbonate sort of roofing material, aren't you?
Yep. Yeah, it's polycarbonate. Yeah. So it's UV resistant. It lets some light through. There's different levels. The one I've got blocks about 50% of light, but I've trialed the ones that let full light through, and it still gets too hot in there. And it's too bright more than anything. I like them to have somewhere a bit dark because they will often choose the darker areas to sit. And 9 times out of 10, they'll sit tucked in underneath overhanging foliage. They don't tend to like sitting out in the open too much unless they're basking, which we had a heap of rain last night. This morning I went out there and they were all sitting up high in the sun.
That's so cool.
It was 33 degrees and they're still trying to bask. Yeah, I've gone out with the temperature gun before and temperature checked a female that's sitting up in the sun, and her body temperature is 40 degrees Celsius.
Well,
and she's choosing to do that. And I've got a solar meter, which are great. They're expensive, but they're great to have. And it tells you the UV that reading, and they'll be getting a UVI of 8, which is extreme desert type stuff. Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah,
but obviously they're not sitting in that all the time. They'll get what they want, and then they'll move back down lower again.
Yeah, and then you maintain sort of a microclimate that allows for that. So
the bottoms of the aviaries, the bottom meter is really heavily vegetated, just like a rainforest floor, and with like ferns and different sort of palms and whatnot. And they'll move down. Sometimes they will sit only a foot off the ground. If we get a really, really hot day, those snakes will be down 30 centimeters off the ground, sitting in amongst that foliage.
And then with your misting, I guess, then you get the evaporative cooling effect happening all the time.
Yeah. So far for me, it works really well. It's been probably 10 years since I moved my first green python outside, and I've had 0 issues in that period of time.
You sort of have a sense of what the sort of maximum range the animals get to, like at some point.
Like temperature-wise?
Yeah, like some point they get to 35 degrees. Are they down at 10 degrees or 12?
Yeah, so the hottest they've ever experienced outside is 42.
Yeah, wow.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
And the coldest is 5.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. We had a few years ago, just a cold snap where it got down to 4 degrees one night, which is super rare for Cairns, and I panicked and brought them all inside that night. And then 2 years after that, we had a run of 8 degrees, 4 degrees, no, not 4, 6, 5 over a couple of nights, and I left them out there, and they were just up basking the next morning. They sat really low at night, just in amongst the foliage, and they did the typical thing that you see like Boland's pythons and that do, where they tuck their head in underneath the coils, and I guess that conserves heat. And then they'll just sit there, not move, and then the next morning, as soon as that sun comes out, straight to the top and sitting in the sun, trying to get themselves as warm as they can. So there's some pretty extreme ranges. Like in Iron Range itself, I've been up there once in the middle of winter where it was 11. That's very cold for that. And we got 2 adults out in ambush that night.
Yeah.
Still looking for food.
Did you find, was it like 11 inside the rainforest where the
Yes,
animals
yeah,
were.
yeah. That I was pointing a temperature gun at the ground. That was ground temperature.
Far out. That's cold,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. That's very cold for there. So most of the time, it doesn't
Yeah.
even get close to that.
Nah, nah. It's interesting to know what they can handle, but I think it's important to for context is that in your circumstances they do have the ability. Like if it's a cold morning here in Cairns, you can almost guarantee that it's going to be 25 degrees. By
Exactly.
9 a.m.
You're
pretty
not going
much,
to
and the
get that.
snakes are
You're
going to
not
get
going to get
sun.
that 5 degree night, and then it's going to be 10 degrees that day.
Yeah, no,
Like
impossible.
like somewhere else, somewhere down south. I still know it's going to hit 20 at least,
At
22,
least.
25. Yeah.
And probably if in direct sun, they can still get up to 30 degrees.
Oh yeah, and quite
Yeah,
quickly
Easy.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
and
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's how I think of my animals too. I think of them sort of like a battery. So they might get drained down to 10 degrees, but then they've got to be able to charge back up again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as long as they can do that, it's when you keep them at damp, wet, cold conditions for long periods of
Yeah.
time.
I should
Um,
also point out as well, I don't run my misting system in winter. It gets
Yeah, of
completely turned
course.
off. They get dried out. They get a proper dry season here. I water the plants and stuff to keep them alive, but they'll go weeks with no misting or water or anything on them unless it rains. There's no misting system running. They'll just
Yeah.
get their water from their water bowls instead, which I
And
very rarely
that
see them use.
Yeah, interesting. I was going to ask. And just water bowls on the ground?
Yeah, yeah, water bowls on the ground. I've tried the arboreal ones. I just made my own and sort of strung them up. I never ever saw them use them, so I just took
Yeah.
them back out again, and they just have ceramic bowls on the ground.
Yeah.
But most
Do
of
you
the time
ever
their
see
drinking is
them?
just from misting.
I was going to ask, do you see them drinking in other ways, like off any vegetation or anything like that?
Yeah, I've seen them drink off leaves, but they mostly just drink off themselves.
Off themselves. Yeah, that's
Yeah, or
convenient
if
for them.
I heavily hose something down, they'll hang their head down and just drink as much water as runs down off
Trips
their
off them.
face a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially females when they're gravid, getting close to that egg laying time, they'll drink a lot of water in that period. I've noticed.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Very interesting. That's a big thing. Dan, you're a proponent of keeping your females hydrated.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, you can't really be too dehydrated, can you? In that
No,
time,
that's
it's not.
No.
It's not going to be
Yeah.
good for
Well,
you. Yeah.
no, it's bad. It's all bad.
it's bad.
Um.
I was going to ask about UV. Like,
Yeah.
what have you seen? What any positive effects of just being outside and being exposed to sunshine?
Not that I can prove or anything like
No.
that. I do think my snakes look brighter when
Yeah.
they're outside
Yeah.
compared to inside, but I don't know if that's just because I'm looking at them in the sun as opposed to artificial light as well. But to me, they look a lot more of that naturally lime green that you see on a wild Aussie. They always just seem to look brighter than what a captive one does, and they definitely look like that when they're outside.
Yeah. And do you think yet they have better skin, or like skin condition, or
They don't look
oh,
dehydrated, that's for sure.
yeah,
They like if you pinch their skin, it goes back very, very quickly. One thing I
yeah,
have noticed though, keeping them outdoors, and it would probably piss people off because they want their snakes to look perfect. They do end up looking a bit knocked around sometimes.
yeah,
That they will rub themselves against branches. They will fall out of trees.
yeah,
They do end up starting to get the odd mark on them here and there. They're not
yeah. Well, you're trying to
perfect
keep them,
looking.
keep them
Yeah,
like wild specimens.
yeah, 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 and they start to look a little bit like a wild specimen just without the skin worms.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
do you find that you get any other like wild like carpet pythons or something
Uh,
coming around?
yeah, I get scrubbies around
Yeah,
the aviary sometimes. Opposite where my aviaries are, I have a bird aviary as well, and that definitely attracts scrubbies, especially when I first built it. And I get the odd brown tree snake hanging around there, but nothing gets into the aviaries. They're
any
just on the outside.
any crazy mishaps? Because of course, everyone's thinking, oh, you don't want to put them outside. They're going to get their head stuck in a mesh, or they're going to do something dumb, anything like that? Or is
Nah,
it when you put them outside, they start to actually sort of become more wild and a bit more savvy?
I think they do become a bit more wild and savvy. They become,
Yeah.
I suppose greens are already like this, but they become very switched on to what's going on around them. Very,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
switched on. The only mishaps, they do fall sometimes. Like, I have seen a snake fall from the top to the bottom. Just, I don't even know how they manage to do it. They'll just be climbing along a branch and then just bang, they'll fall 2.5 meters to the ground.
Yeah.
And the other thing is sometimes they'll strike at you as you walk past
Yeah.
and they get their teeth into the mesh.
In the mesh, yeah.
Yeah, I've never had one get stuck, but it doesn't make a nice noise when they do it. They grab the mesh
Right.
and then they'll twist themselves back out again.
Oh,
That
Yeah,
grating
that
sound,
yeah,
isn't
they
it?
make
Teeth
that
on
grating
mesh.
sound. Yeah, that's yeah. I don't like it when that happens. I try and avoid walking by them at night if I can.
yeah.
They
Matt,
seem to be
any
way worse.
ants?
If I turn a light on, they're way worse, way more switched on to what's going on around them. So if I do, I try and keep it in the dark and just slowly walk past where they are.
Yeah, for sure. I just said, do you deal with any pests, like any ants or anything in the aviaries?
Green ants, green tree ants
Yeah.
is my biggest
Yeah.
issue. They don't touch the snakes. I've never seen them go near the snakes, but they
Yeah.
definitely touch me if I'm going in there. They bite the shit out of me.
They're a pain,
I
aren't
had
they?
one set up a whole nest in one of my male's aviaries only a few weeks ago. I went out there and there was a huge. They just established this nest in the top of the aviary, so I had to try and get in there and cut that out. And
Oof.
they swarm everything, but they never touch the snake. They just went all over the branches and avoided him for some reason.
Yeah, I guess he wasn't a threat. You
Yeah,
were.
that's the only pests I've seen in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Have you
know.
found
Never
that?
had any issues with other ants, or you see the odd bug, like you see roaches and crickets and whatnot getting around
Oh,
in
for
there.
sure.
But yeah, centipedes.
I've
And
had
spiders.
skinks turn up in my outdoor green python enclosure.
Yeah,
They've
yeah, I have
they've
too
Yeah.
actually. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Have you found, Matt, that all of your clutches from your females that are housed outside have been perfectly shelled?
no,
Well,
no.
okay. See, I would have
The-
thought that that would have been one of the positive side effects of being outside
yeah.
and
So
exposed to UV.
majority, yes. I've never got a slug outside. That just could be those girls, though. They've never really
Sure.
given me slugs that I use. But this year I had a pretty rubbish looking clutch laid by one of the girls. It was patchy windows in it and everything. And it
Interesting.
gave me, can't remember how many I got now. Not many, three. Three babies from that. One was very, very deformed. It was just missing the whole front of its face in front of its eyes. Another one died within a day of hatching. Another one was just absolutely weak and garbage. And that was it from that girl. But she also, to be fair, probably shouldn't have been bred with that year. She wasn't in the best condition.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't in condition to breed anyway. But she was in with
Yeah.
another girl that I wanted to breed. So that was my selfishness. I
Yeah.
kind of assumed that she just wouldn't breed because of what condition she was in, but no, she gave me a clutch.
Breeding green pythons even when you don't wanna.
But yeah, the other girl that was in there gave me 15 good eggs. So that was great.
Are you changing their feeding regime leading up to breeding? Are you doing any food
Yeah,
cycling?
I cycle feed most stuff that I keep.
Yeah.
With my green pythons, I don't feed them heaps unless the girls I do want them to breed. Leading up to, I feed them through summer, it's probably every 2 or 3 weeks. They might get a meal, and I vary as well. I'd feed everything from adult mice to like hopper wiener sized rats, quail, chickens, a fair bit of variety, and I do some questionable sized rats sometimes as well, like some small adults, even medium adults, just for
Yeah.
something a bit different. And I'll do that from about probably January through to March, April, and then I slow it down a little bit. They'll get fed a meal every 3 to 4 weeks, and then my girls will usually stop feeding in June, early June to mid June, even though it's not that cold yet. And then I might offer every couple of weeks just to see if they're interested, and they might surprise me and take a meal every now and then they just switch off completely coming into August. And then once they're gravid, my girls usually ovulate the last week of August each time.
So they go off food in June?
Yeah, yeah, in my experience.
That's very interesting that they just. I wonder what that is. Is it maybe the cold?
I don't know,
Because
because June
typically,
is not cold here. I don't see it as
yeah,
cold. And my males
yeah,
some males, not my breeding boy, he goes off usually in May, but the other boys will feed right up to that cold week in July, and then
Yeah.
they just switch off as well.
hmm.
And
And those females already been bred though, Matt, before they go off feed.
um, no, no, they're
Okay.
not because
So they go
Yeah,
off feed
they go off in
first.
June. I don't pair till July.
July.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah.
they go off the food first. But like I said, sometimes they will take another meal again in July. Even going into early August, they might take another meal. And I don't know if that kicks them into the breeding cycle.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
then by the time we get to the end of August, I usually know if they're looking good to go. And I'll get that ovulation. It usually is always for me between the 25th and the 30th of August. I get my ovulations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's their but do you notice any behavioral changes? You know, like for us in boxes, we see them moving to cooler parts of the, away from the heat lamp.
I
Are you seeing them go further down or
No, I find they become really static and they just sort of
yeah.
stay in the one area. They're not moving because I've heard people talk about they move to the cooler area, whereas I always assume they
Yeah.
would try and bask at that period of time,
Yeah.
but they don't.
Yeah.
They will pick their spot. My girls, the breeding girls, they have their favorite spots. They like to sit in the aviary, tucked under some umbrella tree leaves on a branch. I do notice they'll start picking thicker branches, whereas most of the rest of the year they sit on nice thin stuff, like
Hmm.
literally finger thickness. They'll sit on for most of
Yeah.
the year, and then once they ovulate and they start getting ready to lay, they'll pick thicker branches and they don't coil as tightly. They'll start draping themselves a little bit more. But I've never noticed them picking somewhere cooler. But
Right.
that could
And
also mean the ambient's pretty similar across the whole aviary unless they're sitting in the sun.
Mm.
yeah, and when they're looking for a thicker branch and being looser, coiling looser, are they seeking warmer part of your enclosure
I
at
don't
that
think
point?
so. No. I
Okay.
think they're just picking that same spot.
Just right, so they
Once I
stay
go
there the whole time.
No. So once they go through an ovulation and then they start building and start getting bigger and bigger and bigger, once they get within, usually they'll have their prelay,
Yeah.
and then once the prelay's done, they will start basking again, and they'll start moving up into the warmer areas, and then usually with these girls, 4 days before they're ready to lay, they start going to the lay box, and they might sit there for
Yeah.
24 hours and then come back out, bask, and then go back down in there. Usually at night they'll be in the lay box, but in the mornings I'll go out and they'll be back up sitting in the sun again. And if I go out in the morning and they're not out there, I usually know she's late.
And lay boxes on the ground.
On the ground. I've tried up high, and I've tried a whole bunch of things with lay boxes. I've tried like those fern baskets you can get from Bunnings
Yeah.
with the mesh and just a hole cut in them. They've never used them. I've tried hollow logs with one end stuffed closed. Never used that. The only thing I can get them to lay in is a plastic tub on the ground full of sphagnum moss, tucked in the back corner of the aviary, and they'll always choose the lowest one. I'll stack a couple on top of each other, so they've got some options. They always go to the lowest one and use
'cause
that.
I think those plastic tubs appeared in the fossil record about 1 million years ago.
Yeah,
So I
that's
think
natural for them. It's what they evolved to do.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Hey, that's interesting because what they're traveling, they're finding that nest box in
Yep.
amongst a completely planted
It's interesting
aviary
too
with
because those
substrate.
girls very rarely go to the ground.
Yeah,
I very
and
rarely
what are you
actually see them
putting?
crawling on the ground, but they will when they're looking to lay.
And what are you putting in your nest box?
Just sphagnum moss.
Right, and so
Yeah,
I guess that would smell somewhat different to the leaf litter, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah. I've never tried leaf litter, like putting leaf litter inside a box. I usually cover the top of the boxes in leaf litter just so they
Okay,
blend in a little bit more.
so
But
what's the floor of your enclosure? Is it leaf litter or
it's
is it
about
open?
it's 60 centimeters of dirt to start with,
Okay,
well, that's up off the ground because they're built up off the ground with a timber base. But tree roots, they've got logs. It's all leaf litter. It's a couple of inches of leaf litter across the bottom. There's vines that all go down onto the ground. Some do have big logs laying down in there. One's got a big hollow log sitting on the ground. There's a whole bunch of variation. Sometimes the male will sit on a hollow log and just ambush off the ground.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's incredible to me that they, with all of that leaf litter, that they still go to the nest box.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Because they could go anywhere, right?
They could get
easily,
under a
bird's nest fern or whatever.
I've had other outdoor snakes of mine that I give lay boxes to that will go under the lay box and then lay under there, or they'll choose a bird's nest fern in the enclosure and they'll lay underneath that. But these, they always go to the box and right to the back of it and just sit in there.
That is not a bad thing at all. That is fantastic.
No, it's great. I don't want them.
It could not have gone any better.
When I first started breeding them outside, I was so terrified that they were just going to drop eggs from 2.5 meters in the air. But that has not happened. No, it's never happened.
I kind of think that's kind of what I was getting to. If you listen to a range of green python podcasts, that's what people are most scared about. They're dropping them off the perch in a 2x2,
Yeah,
they won't go in the nest box.
Yeah, I've had that happen in a zoo setting, like at work. I've had a female drop just from 2 foot off the ground, just decided to drop her whole clutch onto the ground for no reason. Well, there was obviously a reason, but we don't know what that reason was.
You didn't know it?
Yeah. But I've never had it at home or outside in an aviary.
Yeah, so the whole breeding process is fully outdoors. You let her lay the eggs outdoors, and then you bring them in.
Everything is done outdoors. Yeah, these days my whole process is outdoors. I would love to let a female sit on eggs outdoors, but I'm way too scared of losing babies out of an aviary.
You'd have to.
I've thought about this. I'd have to, I think, fly mesh the entire thing, so nothing could get out. I've had people tell me to put bloody plastic sheeting on it. They'll turn into saunas if I do that.
Oh yeah,
I can't. Yeah. They still need the same airflow.
I mean, the only option would be just to check on them every day and remove her when they start hatching, but then it kind of defeats the purpose.
I kind of just want to see what they do when they come out, where they go, and what they do, whether they stick close to the ground or they start climbing up. I don't know what they do. Well, same as I want to raise hatchlings outside at some point as well from day one. Oh,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Matt, could you make a nest box or a lay box with the hole in it taller than a neonate could get out of? And then when the babies start hatching, they stay in the box and the female can crawl out?
Yeah, that's definitely possible. Yeah, I could do that.
I don't know.
Well, because when these things hatch, I've always thought, how do these things survive in the wild? They're just
They're pathetic.
They're pathetic. And you think, how do they go from being in the coil? I'd love to know exactly what, between hatch and first shed, what do they do? Do they hang out with the mum, or do they climb up underneath a fern somewhere and stay moist? It'd be so interesting.
I'd love to know the answer to that. All the tiny juveniles I've always seen in the wild have been tucked really low underneath. I forgot the name of the plant. They're always under this same sort of, it looks like a lamandra, but it's not a lamandra. And they sit tucked right in underneath it, only 10 centimeters off the ground. The really young ones I've seen. But I don't know if they're staying there all the time. But when you go back to that same spot at night, they'll be sitting there during the day, but at night they'll be a meter off the ground, just sitting in a perfect coil, sitting on a branch completely out in the open sometimes. And you look at it and go, are you just trying to get yourself killed?
Huh.
So did you say at night they perch up?
They perch
and
up.
Then
so
during
the
day,
so the juvies hunt.
It's the reverse.
During the day, yeah. So when they're young and hunting skinks, they will hunt during the day, and that's how you see them in ambush. And then as soon as the sun sets, they perch up for the night. Yeah. And as far as I can tell, they will continue that until they're big enough to eat a rodent. And then they will switch.
Are you finding the neonates in like the ecotone between the rainforest and other habitat, or all throughout?
So majority of the ones I've seen have been along road verges, which I guess is the edge of a habitat when you look at it that way, or along creek lines a lot of the time. Areas that tend to get a lot more sun So you get a lot more skinks, which makes sense. And they're hunting along there. I've never seen a juvenile deep into the rainforest. But in saying that, I haven't seen a lot of adults very deep into the rainforest either, because it makes it a lot harder to actually see them in that area. But hunting the edges where it gets more sun makes a lot of sense for a juvenile when your prey is skinks.
Skinks, totally.
And for us, keeping them in captivity, well, we should never feed a juvenile green python at night.
Yeah, well, I've spoken to Joe about this before. I feed my juvies during the day when they first hatch.
Yeah, me too.
And I get a lot more success than I do feeding at night. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I find 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, they're a lot more switched on to food.
I've got problem feeders now that just do nothing until 8 p.m. and then they're called alluring.
That's interesting as
and
well.
Then they won't take whatever I offer them. So
they would have been dead by now.
Yeah. See, a lot of my captives, if I was to look at them now, they're probably in ambush. I feel like they just sit in ambush 24/7 in a tub. Yeah. They're always looking for food, whereas in the wild they're a bit more, I don't know, a bit more savvy, a bit more switched on. They don't want to get themselves eaten.
Have you seen
that would be
Aussies
instinctively ingrained into them? But hey,
have you seen Aussies called a lure?
Yeah, lots. Yeah.
Okay.
But juvies, and I think I've got a video somewhere of a hatchling wild one called alluring. And that's awesome. I've seen adults do it as well. Adults just sitting there called alluring.
Yeah. Very cool.
Really cool.
Are there any sort of major takeaways that you've been able to transfer from seeing them in the wild to keeping them in captivity? I mean, the average person can't exactly do what you do with the way that you keep them, but I don't know, is there any key takeaways for you?
The only thing, they obviously move a lot more than we think they do, especially if you give them the option, and the body condition you can achieve keeping them outdoors is pretty impressive. They look fit. They don't just look like flabby snakes. They tend to look a lot more muscular. They feel different when you pick them up as well. The muscle tone is very, very obvious compared to picking up an adult girl that's been indoors her entire life to an adult girl that's been in an aviary for 5-6 years, a long time. It takes a while to get to that point. You can't just put it outside and a year later it feels like a different snake. It takes time, especially for an animal that still does not move a great deal when it's out there.
I did want to ask too, when we were talking about it earlier, but how does the transfer go for the young ones when they hit about a year old and you take them outside? Is there much of a transition period, or are they straight onto food?
They're straight onto food every time. I've even had young ones that have been difficult indoors, and I've put them outdoors, and they've just gone amazing. I had a male that I put out there this year. I put him out there about 2 months ago. He's grown up. I raised him from a hatchling inside a 900 by 600 Exoterra, fully planted, just from a fresh hatchling, just to see how he behaved in a bigger enclosure. And he was really good. And then I upsized him to a bigger enclosure from there, and he just went off his food, wasn't interested, would always perch in the very back of the enclosure behind some branches, would ambush from there if he was hungry, but was still reluctant to take food. And I just thought eventually, I was like, oh, fuck you, you're going outside no matter what. So I put him out in a huge aviary, and the next night he was down at the ground in ambush. He'd climbed all the way down, was doing it, and I offered him a mouse, and he took the mouse, and he's never refused to feed.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's cool to watch because he is small, and he just moves around so much, and he perches up so high. There's a passion fruit vine in there. And he sits in amongst all the passion fruit leaves up really, really high. And then each night descends all the way down to the ground to do his thing.
I would love to see, Matt, you with some sort of high-end, fancier green pythons that are potentially more prone to issues and see how they go outside.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really want to do it. Yeah, I really want to give it a go. And I do, I want more greens. I want a few different types to play around with now, and
for sure,
see what I can do with them. And I do want to try keeping some of these animals outside and just see how they go. I talked with that yellow girl that I had. She lived outdoors. She did well outside. She just never bred for me. I'd like to try a few different animals that, I don't know, don't have issues that she obviously had. But the ones that are more prone to being difficult, and just see how they go outdoors up here.
Well,
but
you got to think
they're out of my
fit
price
animals.
range.
Yeah, well, you got to think fit animals are always going to do better.
It
doesn't matter what they are. You want to keep fit animals always do better. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
And you can then afford to feed a little bit, bigger meals or whatever, because it's just a bigger calorie usage.
I definitely haven't fed meals that size indoors. That's for sure.
No.
Some of the meals I've fed these outside snakes are pretty big. And they digest them so quickly too.
Yeah, you can imagine you've got animals that are able to increase their metabolism by getting warmer.
Mm-hmm.
They're fitter, so they've got better muscle mass. All of that put together, probably hydrated better because they're getting rained on and all of that.
Yeah,
just got to be better.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. Like these snakes get very, very wet over the wet season as well.
But yeah,
like when we get a lot of rain, they've got an option to move out of it, but they often don't. They'll just sit out in the pouring rain and they'll be wet for days and days and days. But that's the good thing about outdoors with good airflow as well. They dry out quickly and they're not sitting in stagnant water. There's no mold issues.
Stagnant water, stagnant air.
Yeah. And people don't, when you experience a tropical downpour, it's like it's proper rain. When it's not drizzly sort of rain.
20 mil, it's a couple of 100 mil.
Exactly.
Like I had those snakes outside during Cyclone Jasper when we had 2,000 mil in a couple of days, and they sat through the entire thing outdoors.
Yeah. And they're drinking rainwater that's, it's got micronutrients in it. Who knows?
You don't
all
know.
Of that.
Yeah.
I think it's a win. It's just
it works for me. I like doing it. It makes me feel better about how I keep the animals, and to me, I love Iron Range. It's one of my favorite places, and seeing those snakes do what they do up there, I can replicate that a little bit in my yard. And watch them behave a bit more naturally, because that's the whole reason I got into snakes. I liked wild snakes. I like herping. Herping's my thing more than captive keeping, and I can treat them how a wild snake was, and it makes me feel good about myself a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
I think something you said just then was very important, Matt. You said it works for you.
Yeah.
You've obviously got a very, very well-rounded knowledge of snakes in captivity and their natural history, and then also enclosure design and whatnot as well. So there's a lot of different decisions that you would have had to have made along the way to allow it to work for you, though.
Exactly. Sure. It's not as simple as just building a bird aviary and putting it outside and then chucking some snakes in that and hoping they do well. There's a lot of looking at where the sun's going to be, realizing how much rain these aviaries actually get. I've had to modify them over time and cover more sections of certain aviaries or enclose certain parts because they do get a little bit too much sun, or put another plant in there because it is getting too intense, or branches that actually work for the snakes. Like, so many people keep greens on these big, thick branches, and they always have a preference that you see them in the wild. They're always on the thinnest thing. I've seen an adult green perch on some bunched up leaves before, just to try and get on something thin that was around there. So they get a lot of options.
It must be uncomfortable to sit on something thick for them.
You'd think so.
If they're choosing,
I don't have any proof behind it, but I honestly think that thick branches lead to spinal kinks a lot of the time.
I mean, you're making them sit in an unnatural position for them, essentially.
That's right.
With thick branches.
Yeah.
Fascinating, though, that when they grab it, you reckon they sort of start to move towards, or getting close to egg deposition.
Yeah, I think that's so they can sprawl out a bit better. It's a bit harder to sprawl out on a thin branch. Like when you see sitting on a thick branch and they're coiled over the top of it, their two coils don't touch each other underneath.
Yeah.
But always on thin branches, they'll push those coils right together so they get a full wrap around the branch.
Together. Yeah. What's your thoughts on finding them on the ground? I've seen them on the ground in Iron Range.
I've seen lots on the ground.
What do you think about that?
What do you mean? What do I think about it? Like the old story: if they touch the ground, they die. Yeah,
dead.
I've
Yeah.
copped that one
Did,
before. Yeah, I used to get that a
yeah.
lot from people would send me messages on bloody Instagram and stuff. The snake was curled up on the ground. They're like, that snake's sick. It's gonna die. They can't cope. Like up the Cape, they sit in ambush on the ground, pointing at the bases of trees. I've seen
Yeah.
them before a rainstorm come down and curl up on the ground nice and tight and then sit there, get rained on, and then drink the water out of those coils and then go
Yeah.
back up into the tree again. Like that's impressive. Like that they know that rain's coming.
The
They'll get
rain's
down,
coming.
get their
They
drink.
go to the ground.
Yeah. I've got a photo somewhere of one sitting on the ground in ambush outside a little rodent burrow on the ground.
Oh,
It's
that's
just
cool.
sitting right next to the rodent burrow, just waiting for it to come out.
Yeah.
So they come to the ground often.
Do your
Come to the
captive
ground.
ones?
Yes.
The captive ones go to the ground? Yeah.
Yep. More so males.
Okay.
One of my boys, the one that died a couple of years ago now, he used to actually, ironically, he would sit on the ground. Yeah, he would sit on the ground every now and then.
Hey, hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on.
There you go.
But not then. Yeah.
Sample size of one.
Yeah, so he would sit on the ground, usually in winter. He would just go and sit on the ground, and especially if we were going to get rain.
Wait for rain.
He'd sit on the ground, he'd drink, and then he'd go back up again. Yeah. And he did that when he was indoors as well. And another young one that I raised a couple of years ago used to do it fairly regularly too. She would sit on the ground most nights and then perch up during the day. That was just her chosen hunting position.
It's what she did.
The way she chose to do it. Yeah, sometimes she'd sit on top of a rock, just curled up in a perfect ball, just staring out into the abyss, just waiting for food.
Have you got any words of advice for someone looking to get their first green python?
Do some research to start with. Talk to people that actually know what they're doing, not Facebook. Facebook is not the place to get your information.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the people that are actually doing it right to begin with. And if you're going to message them, send a nice message. God, I get sick of just getting, tell me how to do this. I want to know exactly how you do it. No hello, no thank you, no nothing. Same as if you're buying animals. Everyone probably knows that breeds stuff. I don't even reply to those messages anymore. Just be nice,
Fair
be
enough.
a courteous human being.
Yeah.
But you need to
Well said.
don't just dive into it, and it's different for everyone. We all live in different parts of the country. It's very, very different keeping a green python in Cairns or Townsville compared to keeping a green even in Brisbane. Like I kept them when I lived down south for a little bit. It's different. Keeping them in New South Wales, keeping them in Victoria. I've got mates that keep them in Adelaide. It's very different. So you need to talk to the people that keep them in your area as well. There's no point if you live in Melbourne asking me how to keep a green python, because I've got it a lot easier.
Oh, mate, just chuck it outside in an aviary.
Just put it outside in an aviary.
A couple of plants.
Right. Yeah.
That'd be sweet. They love it.
Yeah.
You couldn't even get the tropical plants to grow.
No.
No.
That thing would be bone dry in a week.
Oh,
yeah.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we covered a lot of things. Anything else pressing?
I don't know. Did you want to talk about Iron Range and seeing them in the wild? Or
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, any advice for someone who wants to go and see them?
It's much easier than people think it is. It is a bit of a bone-jarring road if you aren't used to that type of thing, but again, we all have different opinions of what a bad road is. Depends on how much travelling you've done around the country.
I've spent a lot of time on that road. Done tens of thousands of kilometres on that road. It depends on the day as well.
Oh yeah,
you might get a
time of year.
You might get a you might drive up there one day and it's horrific, and then the next day when you're driving home, it's just been graded and it's
amazing.
So
but
really
it is still about a 9.5, 10-hour drive from Cairns, but you can rock up into that rainforest and see your first green python in 10 minutes of being there. They are the easiest python in Australia to see once you're in the habitat. They're the easiest snake to see up in that area, and they're common. They are common. They're doing very, very well for themselves. Obviously, there's a lot of prey when you do go up there. There's a lot of rodents around, especially
A lot of
compared to
rodents.
walking around the rainforest here in the wet tropics. You might see the odd rodent every now and then, and if it is, it's probably a white-tailed rat, which is too big for something like that to eat anyway. But up there, lots of melomys getting around. I have seen evidence of them eating birds up there as well. Like I've seen their craps on the ground. They've got quills and bits of feathers and stuff in them, like rainbow lorikeet
Very
feathers or even butcherbird feathers in them. And
Wow.
lost track of where I was going there with that. But once you're there, it is an easy place to get around, but it depends on your experience with herping. And I know people that have gone up there and not seen them. I don't know how, but there is a possibility. Yeah. I think a lot of people go up there and don't know how to look for them as well. They start looking high up in trees and whatnot, which you can see them high up in trees. I've seen them way up trees of a night. I've seen them in ambush pointing at the side of a tree 10 meters up at night before, probably hunting whatever's up there. But once you know how to look for them, they are easy, and it depends on the time of year as well. You can see I've been up there every month of the year now, pretty much. And
wow,
the further into the dry season you get, the harder they get to see.
Mm-hmm.
You still might see a couple, but if you go up there in the wet season, I've done a couple of trips now in January where you have to fly in at that time of year, it's brilliant. It's an awesome experience. But you can see 30 of them in a night in the wet season quite easily.
In the wet,
you can see 100 plus in a week up there.
Yeah.
If you go out and put the effort into it, you might drive along an area and see 3 within 3 meters of each other, all in ambush.
And Matt, are you getting a lot of? I was just going to say, you're getting a lot of variation. Like, what's the variation in the more, the color or pattern or
like in the dorsal stripes more than anything?
The dorsal, are you seeing animals with a lot of blue on them, or are you seeing a very majority narrow sort of?
It's narrow. So the majority are just lime green, white spots down the spine.
Yeah,
I have seen the odd one up there with just a couple of spots. You tend to see, I don't know why, but you tend to see more Aussies in captivity with poorer dorsal stripes than you see in the wild. I don't know if anyone's worked out why that is yet. It could be just genetics. But I've seen, the one I posted today on Instagram is the best one I've ever seen, with the perfect white stripe the entire way down its spine. I've never seen ones with massive patches of blue, but I have seen other people's photos with the big patches. I've seen small, like 20-cent piece size spots of blue on them. I've seen one with a 5-cent piece black spot on the side of it before, and blue scales just randomly on the face. But when they get injured, they tend to scar blue, so they end up with all these blue scars all over them. Anyway, but as far as like variety goes in like stripes, I've never seen much more than just the white stripe down the spine. Occasionally, you might get some white spots off to the side of the spine, but that's really it. Yeah, not a huge amount of variety.
When you're looking for them, you're just pretty much sticking to roads and tracks and paths. You're not just trudging through the rainforest.
Nah, I've had more luck just sticking to road verges, tracks. Most of the tracks in Iron Range are terrible now. They haven't been maintained at all. Yeah, but just cruising along the road, there's different ways to look for them. Some people will drive really slow and spotlight out the window. I like walking. It's more rewarding to me to just walk along.
It's so rewarding.
Yeah, walk along and just scan the edges, and you just get them sitting in the ambush, sitting off logs, off vines.
Yeah.
They don't seem that fussy about what they'll ambush off the side of. Sometimes they'll be on just a vertical tree, just pointing down. I've seen them just literally clumped a whole bunch of grass together, and they're just sort of hanging off the side of the grass.
Hanging off that.
Yeah.
That picture you posted today of the termite mound was epic. That's very cool.
That's only the second one I've ever seen outside the rainforest.
Yeah.
So I've heard of other people getting them just on the outskirts of the rainforest, or when you get that Melaleuca type woodland. This was a paperbark swamp, and I was just walking around the edges of it and got that snake in there. Yeah, sitting on ambushing off the side of a termite mound, which was interesting.
I just had a side note, bit of a thought. Matt, do you know anything about Operation Blowdown? in Iron Range?
Never heard of it.
So you know when you come to the three ways and there's that flat grassland there?
Yeah.
In like my knowledge of this is it should be better than what I'm about to say, but around the time of the Vietnam War, the Australian military dropped a bomb there to test how difficult it would be, or if it would be more difficult to traverse through destroyed rainforest or rainforest as it lies. And so they built this tower, and they had a bomb on top of it, and they blew up the rainforest. That's why nothing grows there. It's all grass.
That's really cool. That's interesting because like it's obviously like Iron Range was used pretty heavily in the war.
Massively, yeah. There's
it was
of
a
it
really.
everywhere. So
but if you walk through the rainforest, you find all sorts of interesting things.
Turrets and guns.
Yeah,
and
turrets.
Shit, but
there's old mining like holes in the ground. There's bits of plane sitting in the bush, and it's really cool.
Bits of tin poking out everywhere. But
yeah,
they managed to find that it is indeed more difficult to trudge through rainforest after it's been blown up. there's an interesting YouTube video about it. I might put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely do. I want to see that. That's really cool.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's just fucking blow up some of the world's most pristine or impressive rainforest just to see if it's harder to get through it.
That's right. Yeah, a bunch of massive trees all laying on the side.
Yeah.
That's quite hard.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember driving in there being like, why is there just grass here? It's just grass. So it's like this.
Yeah, I always
back.
wondered why that was there.
Nah,
because it is so random.
Like guinea grass, basically.
Yeah. Wonder why nothing's ever grown back.
I think because of the material in the explosive.
Yeah. So it grows nothing but guinea grass now.
Guinea grass grows anywhere.
Yeah. And you see nothing in that area except for keelbacks, the cockroaches,
I've given
of the
half
snake
a story
world.
here. If you wanna learn more, watch the video. But yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's nice up there. It's pretty.
It's a beautiful place. You feel like you're in New Guinea. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's an interesting place.
What else is?
I people. It bothers me as well that people do go up there and interfere with the greens, because I get everyone,
the greens in particular,
everyone wants to touch one and get a photo with it and that sort of stuff, but it screws them up. You never see that snake in that same spot ever again. Yeah. It just buggers off. Doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Just if you do go up there, leave the things alone. Yeah. Take photos of them because they don't care about that. They're the best snake to photograph.
Photography. Yeah.
Yeah. They just sit there.
They're perfect.
Yeah. Unless you stick your hand in front of one.
Yeah, you'll know about it.
I've seen that done before. Yeah, they'll grab that hand like it's a rodent.
The labial pits work.
Yeah.
It's so cool, but driving into Chile Beach and you're literally on the beach and you turn around, there's rainforest with a green python.
Yeah, I've seen them right on the edge of the beach there. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's epic. So long as the wind isn't blowing you off your feet at Chile Beach, which it quite often is.
That's all it does there, isn't it? It's always windy.
Yeah. Hey, I've been there on glass out days. Phenomenal.
I've never seen that.
Unreal.
Ever. It's always windy when I've been there. Always.
Yeah, that's a pretty standard East Coast, North Australia thing. Hey, it's just blowy. Yeah. Cool.
Very interesting.
Indeed.
Anything else?
Yeah, we had enough.
I don't mind. If you've got questions, I'll answer them.
No, I'm unprepared, Matt, clearly. No, I didn't really have much else. You've pretty much covered just about everything. I do think it's I talked about this in the previous podcast as well, how important it is to take note of the natural history of the animals when you are attempting to keep them, or at least attempting to keep them in a way that they sort of deserve.
Yes.
And getting out and seeing them is by far, well, it was the catalyst for you to do what you're doing, which I would kind of view as pretty much the pinnacle of keeping green pythons, at least.
Yeah,
You've got to go and see them. You've got to go and see what they do.
I've never understood I've never understood people that don't want to see the animals they keep. Like, I get not everyone can go and see the animals they keep, but I've never understood like the lack of care to not see something. It's so interesting. It changes your view on your animal when you see it in the wild doing what it actually does naturally.
Totally.
And it's amazing. It does amaze me how many reptile keepers don't even know where their animals are found in the wild.
Come from.
That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But I guess we've all gotten into it for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. It's something to make you think anyway, because I think there's always something that you can do to improve your care of the animals at some point or another. So getting out there
Mm.
and actually seeing it is
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
I think it's a responsibility of anyone who owns animals to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
I'd
100%.
agree.
Yeah.
And when you're driving through Iron Range and you looked to your side and you see this fluorescent, they
They
essentially
glow.
fluoresce.
Yeah.
Once the head torch hits it, they glow. You can't
Yeah.
miss them. It's unreal.
Yeah. It really gives them away, doesn't it? Because without that head torch, they're not the easiest things to see.
No,
Unless they
yeah,
are
well, at
sitting, you
daytime.
do get them sometimes just sitting out in the open on a bunch of brown sticks, and then they're easy to see. But if they're tucked in the grass or sitting in some foliage somewhere, then they're not an easy snake. Even when you go back in the daytime to try and find where that snake was that you saw the night before, you can be staring right at them for minutes and not even realize they're coiled on a branch a meter in front of your face. They
Yeah,
blend in
ridiculous.
amazingly well. Yeah, and the juveniles are even harder again,
Yeah,
and especially because you've seen it up there. There's yellow leaves everywhere, especially down low.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, all these yellow
Yeah,
leaves,
yeah,
and they look like those yellow leaves when they're curled up.
yeah. It checks out.
Hmm.
I was lucky enough to run a tour up there, as you know, Matt, a couple of years ago, a wildlife tour, and one of our guests was just dying to see green pythons. And on our first night cruise, he poked his head out of the bus after about 3 minutes of taking off and went, "Bang! There's a green python." We just
Oh,
heard the yell from the back of
awesome.
the bus, "Green python!" And it was a yellow. It was
Oh, that's
epic.
even better again.
Um,
Yeah.
Interestingly, too, it was in October, and we managed to still get, I think, 3 or 4 green pythons that night.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was good.
How big was that
You can
yellow
see
in
them.
October? Was it huge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Would have
wasn't
been
huge. It
huge.
wasn't huge actually. It was maybe 40, 45 centimeters.
Okay.
But the one I got earlier that year was like a full blown 70 centimeter,
What
thick as your thumb behemoth.
what time of year was that?
July.
July. Okay. So that thing had eaten a lot of skinks in that period of time.
It eated a lot. It eated a
Yeah.
lot of
I've
skinks.
seen them in late December before going through the color change, where they're
You've
partly yellow, partly more so green.
oh, that's
Yeah, I've
that's very
seen
cool.
that. But my captive ones change in, I don't know, October a lot of the time. Depends on their
Okay.
size. Yeah, they tend to
Yeah,
change a bit
and yours
quicker.
are hatching.
But then my captive ones are smaller than that snake. At the same time, it's weird.
Yeah, well, we don't really know the catalyst for the color change to
No,
begin, and
I've
it seems
just
to
always
vary.
assumed it's just when they change to hunting rodents and
Hunting rodents.
they need to hunt nocturnally in the rainforest.
With your clutches, do you get much variation in like timeline when they start to change? Are you growing many out?
Nah.
Like, have you if you
This
no?
year, yes, but usually I'll just
Yeah,
grow out 3 or 4 each year. I'll hold
yeah,
back
okay,
3, 4, and stupidly sell the rest, and they always end up being the nicest ones. Always,
yeah,
every time.
of
They
course.
always get the best dorsal stripes and everything. Um, but mine tend to all color change. Yeah, around that October mark, and they hatch for me in December most of the time. Yeah,
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 okay, 10
December
months
is when.
old.
Yeah, about 10 months old. They're probably about 50 centimeters, maybe a bit
Yeah.
bigger.
How
Yeah,
often are you feeding them?
I usually feed once a week for
Hmm.
hatchlings. Sometimes a little
Yeah,
bit more often, and
yeah,
sometimes a little
and
less often. But on average, it's probably every 7 days. I'll feed juvies, and then once they're very well established, like they've tripled in size or tripled their weight or whatever, I'll ease it off to every 2 weeks. I'm a very sporadic, all over the place feeder. I don't really have a routine. The only reason they get fed like that is because I just feed hatchlings. I pick one night of the week and I'll
yeah.
go through and feed my hatchlings, which is more than one night of the week often. I've got, there's
Yeah.
120 hatchlings behind me at the moment. It's terrible.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Not 120 hatchling green pythons though.
No, there's 15 of them. Yeah.
That's nice though. 15.
I wish it was
15
120
solid.
green. No, I don't. I don't wish it was 120 greens. That'd be awful.
No.
Yeah. 15 is enough.
Yeah.
15 is enough. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I usually only breed
so you
them
keep
every
back a
second.
few of those?
Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of a couple, and I'm gonna send a couple to friends as well.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably hold them until they're 12 months old, and then I'll figure out what I want to keep. I say that all the time, and then I start dwindling them out when I don't have anywhere to put them and space, and need money.
I think
All of the above.
sending them to friends is a nice way to just keep extra holdbacks. Hey, by the way,
and I
man,
have got
can I
back that way before too.
Yeah, nice.
You told me you
Nice.
have no
I
more
think that's
space. You
handy.
can't take any more snakes.
Oh no, I've got this tiny little unit. It's already full of snakes.
Yeah, so how many snakes have you got, Matt, in your entire collection?
Uh,
Ballpark.
I worked it out not long ago, but I've sold a couple since then. 200-ish.
Yeah, right. So you're a busy man.
Yeah, but
You're
I
a
don't.
busy man.
It's stupid. I'm a hoarder. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I
He
do
doesn't
struggle to
condone
get
it.
rid of things, and I always want something different to muck around with and breed. But I have decided I am going to downsize certain things, and I've got the bug bad again. I do want more greens and more variety, and I do want to try some different types, different localities, different. I've got to source them. That's the hardest part a lot of the time, because people don't want to give up their animals. It is a
No, they don't.
very different subsect of the community. Everyone likes to sit on what they've
Hoarder
got.
extremes.
Yeah, it's hoarders, and they are pricey, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, yeah, I usually try and spend my hatchling money on more snakes. So, yeah,
It's free money.
It's free money.
Sure. On top of all the bills and the power bills and food bills and all that sort of stuff. So, anyway, yeah, I do want some more stuff. Yeah.
It's good. More greens. Yeah. I can't wait to see some fancy. Not that yours aren't fancy, but I'm looking forward to seeing some fancy stuff outside at your place one day.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I would like some nice BX or Kofi hours or something like that.
Yep, Dan Boz, if you're listening.
Yeah, hit me up.
Righto, fellas. Let's pull the pin there. I reckon I'm happy with that. Yeah, sweet, Matt.
Sounds good.
Great show. Thanks for coming on. If people are looking for you, you got some epic green python content on your Instagram, both field herping and captivity. What is your Instagram handle for anyone looking for it?
It's just my name. It's just Matt.Summerville. Yeah. Instagram,
I'll put the link.
I post everything. You won't see anything on Facebook. Very rarely. Yeah.
Gotcha. And Dan's on there as Red Earth Reptiles. The link's always there. And I'm on there at joemac.uthl. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Feel free to like, follow, subscribe, and all that good stuff. We appreciate you listening. Cheers.